Hi, everybody. Jack and I are both looking down going, okay. Um, Welcome to Friday Night Block Talk. I'm Robin Sullivan from the Leather Elves, and I'm here with Jack Pine from High Redbird. How's it going, Jack?
I am doing great. I am sitting here drinking my hot apple cider, enjoying our brisk 88-degree fall weather.
Hey, I have to tell you, happy National Pet Bird Day. Jack and
Oh,
I have gotcha. We've been working with the My Bird Facebook page, and we are at like 5 live streams for the week. So if we say anything that you go, that makes no sense at all, just go with it. Just it's okay. So I'm going to turn this over to Jack. Do we have any reminders or anything we need people to know?
all right. So we do have a couple of reminders for you guys. First and foremost, if this is your first time tuning in, or if you have not already done so, you want to make sure that you follow the Leather Elves page on Facebook. You can like them, you'll get the option to follow them. That'll give you notifications. Whenever we do a live stream, you will be alerted so you don't miss out on any of the fun. We want you guys to be a part of the live streams because you can ask us questions. You can participate in the chat. Now, of course, we understand that sometimes you may miss out on one of the sessions. Maybe you have to work late. Maybe something else is happening. We will miss you. But to make sure that you guys do not miss out on the information, all of the videos are available on the High Redbird YouTube channel. They're actually put together in a single playlist so you can watch any of the sessions we've had before. If you want to rewatch a session to remind yourself of any information you may have missed, you can watch them all over there. There's over 40 hours of content on that playlist. So, if you know anybody who could use a little help with their bird, maybe a new bird owner, especially as we move in towards the holidays, people get birds for the holidays, that might be a good recommendation for them so they can have plenty of information available. Now, Robin and I both have Instagram accounts. You can follow Robin at the Leather Elves on Instagram. You can follow me at High Redbird on Instagram. Both of us post a lot of really fun information. Robin has a lot of different toy ideas, enrichment opportunities, and I cheat because I want people to like my stuff more. I post baby animals, but both places will also give you notifications of upcoming sessions so you never miss out on what's coming up with our Friday Night Flat Talks, with any of these special events that we have coming up. And we do have a very special event coming up that Robin and I are very, very excited about. We are introducing Parrot Academy. Now, Parrot Academy is I know it's very exciting. Oh, and look, the background changes. It's wonderful. Um, Parrot Academy is an 8-week course, an interactive course designed for new bird owners or bird owners who would like a refresher on the basic foundation of bird husbandry. So every single week is going to cover a different topic. And every single week, you will get homework assignments to help you better take care of your individual bird in your individual setting. This is not a one size, or rather, this is a as close as you're going to get to a one size fits all approach for your birds, because you are going to go through, we are going to help you individually tailor your care program to your bird and your needs. So if you would like to find out more about that, you can find out more on the QR code that is currently on your screen. You can scan that, or you can go to the website, which Robin will give you, and I'm going to pretend that I know it too.
It's the leatherelves.net/macaws.
Okay.
Look at that. So both of us will have our smart glasses on. For those of you that listen every week, you know what happens when we put the smart glasses on. So you have, oh, see, we're going to put the smart
Oh,
glasses on for Parrot Academy. Yes.
I know the website now too. It's theleatherelves.net/macaws. See?
There you
See
go.
what the
I
glasses
like
do?
it. They make us smarter just by putting them on. So yeah, we're super excited about Parrot Academy, you guys. You can go register either way through the QR code or that add that web address, and it's 8 weeks of it's pretty intense. But it's like Jack said, it's really tailored for what you need. And you can make it what you really want it to be, and you can get out of it what you need. So yeah, we're super excited about that. And we want to thank you for considering doing that. So this week's
Oh,
topic. Yes.
wait.
Oh,
Before we even get into this week's topic, we did have a request. Robin had a request, but I
to
would also
sing?
like to know this as well. Sorry.
To sing?
Oh no, 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 no,
Oh.
no, no, no. Um, um, Robin and I have enjoyed so much talking to you guys about parrots, about doing so many different things with your birds, providing training, enrichment, so many different opportunities. But Robin and I have taken care of a lot of different animals. So we would be interested in knowing from you all, is there any particular species or type of animal you would like to hear other information from us as well? I have personally taken care of mammals, reptiles, fish, birds. I know Robin has done a lot of enrichment and training consultations for zoos all over the world, working with birds, but also when I say birds, I always kind of mean parrots, but also birds of prey, which are still birds. But then things like bears and wolves and elephants and so many different really cool animals. So if there's anything you guys would like to know about, go ahead, leave us a comment so that way we can provide you guys with the type of content you would like to see.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, there's so many different avenues we can go down, and we really wanted, you are the loyal group that listen every week and that tune in, and we want to give you what you're looking for. So just, like Jack said, leave us a comment if there's a species in particular, or if there's a type of animal, and it doesn't have to just be birds. There's Halloween's coming up. It's getting cooler up here in the Northeast. Yeah, cool is a relative term. I understand that. I've got my long sleeve on, so it's good. But we've got some Halloween toys over at the Leather Elves. But one of the Mark Sullivan likes dinosaurs. Mark Sullivan, you are a dinosaur. Sorry. Um, I don't just talk to everyone. Anyway, we're going to talk tonight. I told you this was going to be a weird one because we've been, online for way too long this week. But tonight we're going to talk about seasonal produce. And here's where I'm going to become the dinosaur and say that I remember when I was a little girl, I know a long, long time ago, back in when the dinosaurs were roaming the earth, when certain foods were only available at certain times of year. I remember being super excited when pomegranates would come out because it was Thanksgiving. That's when you got a pomegranate. I went with my Nana to the store and we got pomegranates. And clementines, those were only available, in the fall. And so there are definitely things have changed as far as seasonal availability is concerned. Jack, what's your take on the whole seasonal thing?
I mean, so I think it's incredible that we can have so many different things available year round. But I'll be honest, I go through the grocery store and like I'll look at things and what's arugula? Because I don't think that existed when I was a kid. I don't remember seeing arugula at the grocery store, but it's everywhere now. I feel like kale wasn't as much of a thing once upon a time. So
Kale was kind of a punishment. I'm just saying.
I, some of my animals love kale. To me, kale is still kind of a punishment.
Mhm.
But I think it's really cool that we have so many different things that are now available. And so that's why we definitely need to talk about seasonally available produce. It doesn't necessarily mean the same thing no matter where you are. Obviously, I am in Houston, which is a fairly large city. Our grocery stores are huge. I can get most things year round. If you are in a smaller town, if you are in a place that is, oh, okay, like Robin, those things may not necessarily be as plentiful or as abundant. So, it seasonally available is going to mean different things to different people.
And this is so I've said a number of times we're in the Pacific. Yeah, no, we're not. We're in the Northeast, and right now everybody don't spit your coffee out your nose or your cider. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So this is what things are looking like for us. We've got pumpkins everywhere. We've got the end of corn season. We've got, all the fall. And when I say fall, I mean the colder weather things are coming out and everybody's all excited about that. The closest supermarket to me is a half an hour in either direction. So if I want that, I can find the little farm stand on the side of the road that has the fresh, right out of the garden produce. And sometimes you find different things when you go shopping for your produce. I don't know. I've never seen those at my supermarket, but and it depends where you live. It really depends on what you're looking for. But overall, the things that we're going to talk about should pretty much be available to you all the time. Is quality always going to be the same? It may not be. It may be I can go down the street right now and grab fall for the Northeast produce, but it's probably going to be a little bit fresher than what Jack's going to get in the supermarket. Just because it's, right on the roadside, it came from the farm. So it really depends where you are, what seasonal actually means. So we're going to talk about a variety of stuff. We're going to go through all different kinds of fruits and veggies that are available at different times of year in different places. Okay. So the other thing that we need to talk about is, what does seasonal mean to our birds? We talk about seasonal. Our birds don't come from, most of the time, the places where we live. So we've really got to think about, what does seasonal mean for our birds?
Well, and so for our birds, even if they don't have the same seasons that we do, there are going to be things. Sorry, there are going to be items that are available at different parts of the year, and I think it's really important for people to pay attention to what they are feeding their birds. One, just in general, we want to make sure we're providing our birds with a proper diet that ensures they have the best possible health, best possible care. But if you're paying attention to things like the fat content and the sugar content of the foods that you are feeding your birds, a lot of time when those foods become available for our birds in their native ranges, that coincides with their breeding season. Because
Mhm.
when good fatty foods, good sugary foods are available, that's the best time to try to raise your babies. That's the easiest time to try to raise your babies. So, if you are feeding out a lot of things that are high in fat, high in sugar, one, obviously, there could be potential health issues for your bird if they are fed out in overabundance. But two, it could also help signal to your bird this is the start of breeding season because all of these great things are now available. So definitely keep that in mind, because if you have a companion parrot at home that, is your single bird that you interact with, you probably don't want it thinking it's breeding season.
Right. And and I think we do that. We default to it's breeding season, and we don't always look at what are we feeding. And it's really exciting. I mean, Kimberly just said, all the fun you can have with your birds with pumpkins. And we're definitely going to talk about them later on. But one of the things that happens is you get all this fresh produce and you get the seasonal stuff, and you feed it in abundance, and suddenly you've got the really nasty bird going on. You've got the I'm really way over friendly with you bird going on. And then you get frustrated and say, oh, my bird's hormonal. Let's take a look at why. Let's see what's triggering that kind of response. So you've got to think about that. I mean, and when you were talking about in their native region or their native range, kakapo, for example, kakapo only breed when the removed fruit is plentiful. That's when, otherwise they're like, yeah, no, there's nothing to feed. And they can go for long periods of time without breeding at all because of that. So it's that much of a trigger.
Right. And I think one other thing we need to point out is when you're looking at things that are seasonally available, just like with anything you are feeding your bird, it's important that you pay attention to what you are feeding them, and is it safe and healthy for your bird to get that item. Just because you can get it at the grocery store doesn't necessarily mean it's something you should be feeding your bird. And it is your responsibility as your bird's owner to do that research, to find out what is available and what is good for your bird to get. And sometimes it can be a different list for your species of parrot. Different species, different groups of parrots have different needs.
Absolutely. And when you look at especially pumpkins and the gourds and things that are out this time of year, a lot of them are ornamental only. So you really want to be careful when you're purchasing any of the squashes, the gourds, the pumpkins. Make sure that they're not just an ornamental variety, because you want to make sure that they are safe. We've got this is a place called Primitive Pickings, and she has wonderful, wonderful produce and seasonal stuff and handmade goods. It's local to where I live in New Hampshire, but at the same time, some of her stuff that I went, oh, look, this is really neat. It's small, or those are okay. But some of them I looked at, they had like the bird gourds that look like a bird with it, like a swan. I don't know how comfortable I am feeding those when I don't really know what kind of gourd they are.
Right. And if you do just a little bit of research for things like that, we would be remiss if we didn't mention pumpkins and gourds since it is that time of year. A lot of them are going to have information readily available on if they are an edible or a non edible variety. So you can definitely look for that. You can also look for not all pumpkins are created equal. They are going to have different levels of sugar content, which is
Mhm.
one, going to control how much sugar you're giving to your birds, but also how long is that produce going to last in your fridge? How long is it going to last in your bird's bowl before it starts to deteriorate, before it starts to attract pests? So all of that is important information to look into.
And we're going to talk about how different ways to offer them, and some fun ideas for using them. But even though pumpkins are super cute and you can carve them and you can use them and feed them and the whole thing, um, just because it still looks, cool, it may not be okay to continue to leave that in the cage, because at some point you're going to start having foodborne pathogens. You're going to start having things that you don't want your bird ingesting on on those food items. And the other thing that we should probably mention too is, when you're buying this seasonal produce, make sure you're washing it well, because a lot of things, they do produce in abundance and then they ship them out to the stores, and they want them to last through the whole season, whatever that may be, especially if you're dealing with more of the commercial end of things versus the small privately owned small business. So you want to make sure you're washing things really carefully. Jack, what do you guys use at the farm to wash your produce?
Well, so I'm going to be honest, we're actually very, very lucky. We grow a lot of our own produce. So I know what it is treated with. For us, we actually use a dish soap insecticide that deters some of the insects that would eat the foliage of the plants, but it does absolutely nothing for the bees and the pollinators. So that's a great option there. And I can tell you guys, having picked the produce there versus the produce we get from the grocery store, just feeling the difference texturally makes a huge difference. Our
Yeah.
cucumbers that we grow feel so much different because they're not covered in that waxy coating. So, as Robin was saying earlier, that idea of going to farm stands or getting locally available produce, I have found that in many times that can be far superior produce. Definitely something I'm happier about feeding my birds.
Yeah, and Candy mentions along those same lines, Jack, that ornamentals are sometimes coated to preserve them. And that it's kind of that rule of thumb that the shiny look on anything, whether it's, a grapevine wreath that you're buying at the store, or it's, if it's super shiny, you might want to think whether it has been treated with something or not. Go ahead.
Oh, no. So, yeah, I think that's a good general rule of thumb for taking care of your birds, for taking care of just about any animal. If you have doubts or hesitation, there's nothing that says you have to give that animal that food item. There's nothing that says you have to give that animal that piece of enrichment. If you're concerned about it, hold back. Do a little more research. If it's a piece of enrichment, a toy, a perch that you're concerned about, observe them a little more closely before you leave them unattended with it. I think that's great advice, not just for produce, but for everything when it comes to your birds.
Mhm.
You interact with your animals more than anyone else. You know your animals more than anyone else. So if there is something that seems off or amiss or concerning, pay attention to that because that intuition is valid.
Definitely. And, I think too, one of the things we talk about, how are we going to do this? And it's really abundant at different times of the year. And how are we going to offer it? And one of the things you need to think about is that quantity piece. That, yeah, it's really cool. There's all this fresh produce and there's all this, pumpkins are available. And, just like Kimberly said, super excited to start using them as enrichment. But at the same time, you've got to think about that. How much pumpkin am I giving based on how big the bird is? And look at how cute Widget. It's Widget, isn't it?
That is Widget.
Very
I love how
cute.
he's still giving me a little bit of side eye.
He's like, he matches his dinner or breakfast, whichever that is. It's kind of cute. So
See, and I was
you
just
can.
thinking, I love him. He's great, but sometimes he's just really, really sassy. And I thought you were going to say he matches his owner.
That too, he definitely does. Um, so there are different ways to offer. What? Sassy is always on target, Nick. I don't think that's a butterfly worthy comment, but okay, we'll let you get away with that. So now we've got all this seasonal produce. Seasonal, depending on where you are, depending on, how that works in your area. So how are we going to keep it? You can
Right.
feed it, buy it in small quantities and feed it right then and there, or freezing them. I know a little bit back in the comments, Adrienne mentioned she freezes that last pumpkin of the season kind of thing. Jack, how do you store, because where the farm grows so much produce, how do you guys store that?
So it depends on the produce that we're growing and how we choose to store it. So things like our collard greens and our kale, where we live, we can grow those pretty much year round. So when I need to prep those, I just go and get them. Our blueberries we get for about a month out of the year, usually around March and April. When they come on super heavy. So obviously, the times that we are feeding those out when they are available, we feed them fresh. Otherwise, I like to just pick them. We bag them up for what we will need on a weekly basis and freeze them just like that. So we'll keep them in the freezer. We'll keep strawberries in the freezer, and they do great.
So let me ask you a question, and this is kind of a loaded question. Do you
Uh-oh.
chop things up before you put them in the freezer?
So the blueberries we do not chop up when we put them in the freezer. We have found that if we don't do them whole, they're going to basically explode when they freeze, and all the juice is going to fall out of it. You're going to lose a lot of nutrition there. That being said, if I have something like that and I utilize a pelleted diet as part of my bird's diet, or anything else that's dry like that, it'll start to absorb that moisture. So then I don't miss out on that nutrition, but it's just something to pay attention to. Um, the strawberries, we will sometimes chop up the strawberries just because we get, strawberries the size of your fist. And I'm sure, my toucans would love a strawberry that big, but I don't know what they would do with it. They would just guard it and say, "This is mine forever. Go away."
It's excuse me. The reason I asked that question was because I know, people will dice them into little pieces and that's how they feed the seasonal produce. For me, seasonal produce is one of those opportunities where big, chunky, wonderful is the way to go. And so Tracy says she's going to get some cranberries. Tracy, do you have a bog nearby you? Because you're going to have to float them in a bog, my friend. But cranberries are, and cranberries do freeze really well. I know this from personal experience. Every single year, I have at least one or two bags of frozen cranberries in my freezer. So you can freeze things. The other thing you can do is you can dry or dehydrate some of these items. The only caution with drying or dehydrating is that you are upping the sugar content when you do that. So, do you guys do any dehydrating or drying, Jack?
Yeah, so we'll actually, again, the strawberries, the blueberries, both of those do really, really well. The other benefit about dehydrated produce, when you take that moisture out of it, it stores really, really well. So then I can bag it up. We can put it in the freezer, but even just in an airtight container on a counter, obviously it's going to last far longer than if I just put blueberries there. So dehydrating it is a great option, and I have birds that prefer dehydrated produce. Grayson, the umbrella cockatoo that we have shown time and again doing all sorts of different behaviors, he prefers banana chips. He loves dried apple, strawberries, blueberries, and honestly, I think he could probably do calculus for dried papaya.
There you go. And
Yeah.
I think too, it's again, a lot of these things that we're mentioning are very high sugar content. And like I said, when we dehydrate, there's a little bit higher sugar content. So you just want to be careful that you're offering those in moderation. And I think, you mentioned some birds prefer it that way. And I think it may be a textural thing. I think I've seen it before, that there are birds that prefer to, things that break and things that crunch versus things that are kind of mushy. So if you've got a bird like that, give dehydrating or drying a shot and see if maybe they will respond better to something that's a little bit firmer, maybe. So it's just an idea.
Well, and while we're on the topic of what your birds may prefer, just like with any enrichment, I think it's important that you don't write something off because of one failed attempt or one, lackluster interaction with your bird. I know we brought up cranberries earlier. If I do whole cranberries, my birds don't seem to like them. If I take cranberries and run them through the food processor on the slicing blade to create thin little discs of cranberry, the birds do seem to like that. And fun story about cranberries, because one of the things that I like to do when I am prepping food for my birds, getting all the different produce, I want to make sure that it's the best quality produce. I will usually sample some of the pieces of produce. Cranberries do not have the natural sugar that you are used to if you eat cranberry sauce or drink cranberry juice. So if you just pop a cranberry in your mouth thinking it's going to be a wonderful, sweet experience, you are in for a surprise.
We should have done a challenge on this live stream, Jack. We probably could have raised some money. Darn, you don't have any cranberries.
We don't have those yet,
Oh,
thank goodness.
all right. So, I think it's really, again, trying different things. Melissa said that Zorro went like, what the heck is this, when she gave him dragon fruit? I have to admit, the first time I had dragon fruit, I said, what the heck is this? So think about that when you're presented with something new that you've never seen before. The other thing is, a lot of these options that we're suggesting and a lot of these food items that we're suggesting, your bird is never, ever, ever possibly going to have come in contact with it before. So, your bird's not going to find pumpkin in the wild, pretty much. Okay. They're never going to find that. And if they, are young, maybe they've never encountered it before. If they came from someplace else and you're their second or third home, maybe they weren't lucky enough to have pumpkin, when it was seasonally available. So you've got to kind of give them a break. And what about freeze drying? Is there more or less sugar in the fruit? Allie, what happens is it gets more concentrated. So it's like, think about if you took a cup of soda and took all the liquid out, you'd have that syrup. Well, if you took the water out, you'd have that syrup at the bottom. And that's the same kind of thing that happens with freeze drying. Okay. So it leaves you that concentrated sugar versus a little more spread out. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. So any other thing, any other kind of concerns, Jack?
I mean, I think we've covered most of them. You know, it's up to you to make informed decisions for your animals. It's up to you to figure out the best things to feed your animals that are safe for your animals. So I think at this point, we really wanted to cover some of our favorite ways to offer some of these things because
We
getting to
did.
offer animals new things and watch it be fun is so cool.
It's really about creativity. I mean, with especially with pumpkin, one of my favorite pumpkin enrichment opportunities is not a dietary opportunity. It eventually ends up that way, but it doesn't have to be. It was many years ago. We were working with the Philadelphia Zoo, and their condor needed some serious enrichment. And what we did was we stuck feathers into a pumpkin, and he was preening on them. He was pulling them out and moving them around. He eventually like messed with some of the pumpkin. But if you guys know condors are meat eaters. So really the pumpkin wasn't that alluring to him or enticing, but it was cool enrichment. It was a different textural opportunity. And, Jack and I have talked about, can birds get drunk from fruit that was sitting out too long? Darla, I'll leave it to you for that question. There is some fruit. There is some fruit that will ferment, and then it's really not great for your birds to have. And if you're leaving fruit out long enough for it to ferment, then yeah, we've got to have a long talk about foodborne pathogens.
Right. I would say that would be my big concern. Bacterial infection, fungal
Mhm.
infection, all of those things can start to develop. So, while yes, it is possible, it would definitely be something I would try to avoid.
Yeah. Oh, look at that. That's so cute. So Jack and I were talking the other day about ways to use pumpkins. And one of the ways to use a pumpkin is kind of as a foraging bowl or as a foraging. You take that cover off, you scoop everything out just like you would if you were carving a pumpkin. You put stuff inside and you put the cover back on. Ta-da.
Well, and depending on the species of animal, sometimes I don't even scoop it out because a lot of the birds, especially if I'm doing a large flock of birds where I can ensure that it's not, you know, one bird getting 3 pounds of pumpkin seeds at a time, they're excited to get those seeds. But
Mhm.
even if it's an animal that doesn't eat produce, Robin was talking about that condor. One of my favorite things to do is to turn a pumpkin into a foraging feeder for my insectivores. So kookaburras, bearded dragons, any of those. I'll take a small pumpkin, hollow it out, keep the lid for it.
Mhm.
I'll put small holes in it, and I'll fill it with feeder insects. Come out of that pumpkin as the day goes on. I have seen a kookaburra spend 5 hours staring at a pumpkin, waiting for insects to come out of it.
It's true, and it's a kind of a multi-purpose offering. You've got it. You use it for the insectivores. You and they will also kind of use it texturally. They may not eat it, but they may tear it apart. With I mean things like seasonal, or well, it's seasonal in some places. Kale, some of the bigger leafy greens, you can use those with raptors, and they're not going to eat them. Well, they'll ingest them and they'll cast them right back up again. But it's great to watch them shred. And if you've got a bird that's doing that, I need to shred things. Give them a half a pumpkin. Heck, give them a whole pumpkin and see what happens.
Well, and so we did have a question from Sheila about the seeds in the pumpkin. Would that be okay for them? Um, I am comfortable with the seeds that I feed out with the pumpkins that I feed out, but like we said earlier, it would definitely be dependent on the type of pumpkin that you're feeding out. If it's not an edible variety, that wouldn't be something I'd be comfortable doing. So do your research, make sure that it is something that is edible, that is safe for your bird to get. But
Mhm.
yeah, I think a lot of places actually advertise pumpkin seeds as a natural worming agent for poultry, for birds, for different things like that.
I was just going to mention that it can be used that way, and it is in some places. So Darla, you need to go make those roasted pumpkin seeds and send Jack and I some. Just run down to the local produce place. Uh, oh, Melissa's going to steal them all. So my next favorite seasonal thing is pomegranates. And I know Frank asked at the very beginning, is it okay to just cut a pomegranate? It's my favorite thing to do because it looks like there was a serial killing in your bird room. Go ahead, Frank, try it. But please don't tell your wife that we suggested it. You can
Yes.
just cut
So
that right in half, stick it on the side of the cage, and watch them go at it.
So this is probably a great time to point out that, especially if you are not the only one taking care of your birds, certain seasonally available produce items will have an impact on your birds that will have you terrified that something is going terribly wrong. If you give pomegranates to umbrella cockatoos and don't tell me that you gave the umbrella cockatoos pomegranates, when I walk in first thing in the morning and I'm checking the birds, I'm trying to figure out which bird is missing, like a leg, a wing, something, because everybody looks blood spattered. And when it passes through the bird, you can get a lot of those same colors. So then
Mhm.
I'm concerned, oh God, something's terribly wrong with this bird. Do we need a test for parasites? Like it just had a last visit this time. What could have possibly popped up? No, you got a pomegranate, or you got beets. Beets will give you blood red droppings for your birds. So you need to make sure you're aware of that. Blueberries will turn the droppings of most birds black. So again, just things to pay attention to. If there are other people taking care of your birds, make sure they know.
Yeah, communication, it's always important. So you can feed pomegranate in large chunks, and I personally prefer it that way because again, they're working to get that out. A Jackson Pollock painting in the bird room. That's it. That's the best example, Tracy. I'm going to steal that and I'm going to use it from now on because it makes me look not so crazy, which I need on a regular basis. But you can also go through. I had a lady that I used to work with that would take every single one of the pomegranate I can't remember the name. They're just the little seeds, astiles, okay, and put them on a cookie sheet, and then she would freeze them. And if that works for you and that's what you would like to do, then by all means. The flip side of that is maybe if pomegranates are a super high value food item for your birds, then you could use each one of those little pieces, aerials, that's it. You could use each one of those little pieces as a reinforcer. What are you giggling about?
So I am just going through the chat, and I have to be honest. One of my favorite things with doing presentations with all sorts of animals for kids, if you are ever concerned about not being able to maintain the attention of kids in a presentation, talk about poop. They will lose their
Oh yeah.
minds. It is the best thing ever, and it makes me so happy to realize that it also applies to adults.
I was going to say clearly it's not just kids. It's absolutely adults. And if Diane Hyde were on here, she'd be talking about poop because Diane has gotten to the point now where she's comfortable discussing poop in front of people through her outreach program at Long Island Parrot Society. So it's good to know that it's just everybody. You guys have to back Diane up on this from now on.
Well,
So
Robin, you said that your favorite way to feed out pomegranate is to just cut them up and to feed them out. Um,
mhm.
I love to give whole pomegranates to birds. If you have never seen a bird with an entire pomegranate, like seeing them try to figure it out, pull it apart. My Moluccan cockatoo absolutely loses his mind for an entire pomegranate.
Yeah, to me, as far as when you're feeding fresh produce or fresh fruits, if you can do the chunks, it's just such a better option. Okay, so not here, but I know Jack in your part of the world. What is going on?
Melissa posted, someone
Uh,
keeps pooping on my laptop and it's not me.
Well, that's good to
Thank you
hear,
for that
Melissa. I'm glad it's
clarification.
not you. Um, so is watermelon seasonal in your part of the world, Jack?
Yes. So for us, all melons are seasonal. Watermelon is going to be available only in the summer. And then for things like cantaloupe and honeydew, I'll definitely see a difference. Sometimes, some parts of the year they won't be available. Other parts of the year they're going to be, a lot smaller. They're going to be a different variety. They're going to taste different. But yeah, watermelon is a summer thing that is, available for us in the summer. What about for you, Robin?
Same here. And it's usually, yeah, midsummer is when we see watermelon, and throughout the rest of the summer we have the melons, and the quality definitely goes down as fall approaches. And then we really don't see a lot of watermelon unless it's cut up and in containers, unless it's prepared in the produce department. So, what kind of greens are seasonal for you, Jack?
Well, so in the grocery store, there are going to be certain greens that we have available at different times of year. Things like kale and collard greens. For us here, they're not the happiest in the summer. They want the temperature to be, not blazing hot. Which means for you, Robin, you could probably get those year round. But you know, Right. Kale is great for so many different things. One, some animals enjoy eating it. I am not one of them. I will not hide that fact. But it is nutritious. It is loaded with calcium. It is great for animals. And if they want to eat it, good for them. Please do not force it on me. There is a Sun Conure that was leaf bathing in a bundle of kale. So it was just a bundle of kale that was then wet down, put in their enclosure. They could rub against the leaves. Some birds don't like bathing from a mister. They don't like bathing from a food bowl. I think bathing opportunities for your bird are always important, but they always are going to have individual opinions on what is offered to them. So
Mhm.
trying different things like this is a great option. On the YouTube channel, I actually put together a tutorial on how to turn a bundle of something like kale or romaine lettuce or celery, all of those things, you can turn that into a foraging feeder on its own. So there's a lot of
Mhm.
different ways that you can use that. I mean, Robin, what do you think?
I think, using the greens for leaf bathing is a great idea. It will sometimes encourage birds that are, slightly inquisitive to go and do that when they may not be bathing in other ways. And I think too that I think it's really for greens and things like that. It is really about presentation. It's about how you're offering it to them, not if you're chopping it up and putting in a bowl. Because yeah, let's be honest, you put other greens in a bowl with other produce, and the greens kind of turn into meh. It's kind of like escarole soup. If you guys have ever had escarole soup, it's called escarole soup, but there's these meh leaves in there. So I think it's really about presenting them and keeping them as fresh and as, kind of perky as you can. So, excuse me. Um, we really want to think about the ways we're offering those greens, and making sure that it's as interesting as we can make it be.
Yeah, I know. So
And
Tracy was asking about dandelion greens. And for me, I feel that they are definitely more available in the spring. Sometimes I can find them in microgreens mixes. Sometimes I have better luck going to like a whole food specialty store, a natural food specialty store. But I definitely feel like they have a little bit of a season to them.
they do. And I know Tracy doesn't live super far away, so you can just come up to my place because my whole front yard is generally dandelions at some point during the summer. I'll message you next year and let you know. And it really won't be an issue. You can have that. I'm just saying. So you give your cockatiel spinach leaves. I think that spinach is one of those foods that people are. Oh, I don't know if it's okay, if it's all right. Jack, do you guys feed spinach at the farm?
We will feed it on occasion. For a lot of those foods that have concerning aspects to them, um, spinach, things like broccoli and stuff. If you're looking at reptiles, they can have components in there that can bind to calcium that you don't want to give your animals all the time. By utilizing a variety of different things and rotating through them, you're going to be best providing for your animals, and you can help to avoid some of those problems. So, some of those things are going to have some concerning things. Some of them are just all around amazing. One of my favorite things for my reptiles is collard greens because they hold up very, very well. They grow for us very, very well. They are a great source of calcium. And Nick is Nick is loving my sulcata tortoises, or I post entirely too many photos of sulcata tortoises. I'm not sure which one it is. Nick, maybe we need to send Nick a sulcata tortoise.
We could. That's how we're going to pay Nick from now on. Um, oh no, not again. It's been that kind of night. So greens can be definitely seasonal. The corn, berries. I just found out there's something in the Northeast called fall raspberries. One of our local farms is allowing people to pick fall raspberries. And I don't know, I have to do some more research. If anybody's heard anything about that, please let me know. But how kind of cool that you can get raspberries in the fall. I'm very excited about this. But corn, berries, things like that, you can get them all year round. But there are times when, let's be honest, the strawberries look way better at certain times of the year than they do at other times of the year. And, what do you think, Jack?
So I actually have a fun story about this. And by fun, I mean, yeah, sure, go with it. Please just humor me. One of my best friends grew up in Illinois. She is absolutely in love with the sweet corn that Illinois produces. At the very beginning of the season, I am always like, look, there's corn. Isn't it wonderful? And she's like, no, because it's not the right corn. The first corn that you're seeing at the beginning of the season is Texas sweet corn because Texas gets hotter faster, so it comes on earlier. It does not taste the same, and she can taste the difference. So she waits those few weeks until you're getting that corn from Illinois and the Midwest, further north, because obviously where your produce is growing is going to have an impact on it. What kind of soil it's growing in, what kind of temperatures it's getting. We see that with the produce that we grow at the farm. If temperatures aren't dropping to a certain point at night, that can have a difference, even if the temperature is ideally what it should be during the day. So all of that can have an impact on your animals. And we're kind of picky, but sometimes our animals can be kind of picky as well. So they'll make it clear, no, that's not necessarily my favorite.
Well, it's definitely true. I mean, living here in the Northeast, tomatoes for me, not for my birds, but for me, are, I can't wait till that first local tomato comes out. And I hope I don't offend Linda Giuliani, but because otherwise they're those cardboard Florida tomatoes that we get the rest of the year. Sorry, Linda. But the growing season's very different. So I can taste a difference, and I get the thing about the corn. And Julie's right. Seasonal can be local versus imported. It depends what you're looking at. One other thing that we haven't talked about is nuts, the seasonal availability. So fresh tomatoes are so sweet. They definitely are. But the seasonal availability of nuts, let's be honest. When are you going to see them in the supermarket? Thanksgiving, holidays, right? That's when they're going to be there. And so I'm sending you all on a mission to go to your local store when they go on sale, like the day after. Well, it depends. Some go on sale right after Thanksgiving. Some go on sale after Christmas. Go buy those nuts and put them in the freezer, right?
Yeah, if anybody needs the validation to do this, and obviously if you have a single bird, if you have a single green cheek conure, you probably don't need to do this. But I've got umbrella cockatoos, a Moluccan cockatoo, a green winged macaw, Amazons. I've got a variety of different birds. When nuts go on clearance at the end of the holiday season, I am that person that just grabs the cardboard box and drags it behind me to the checkout counter, and I tell them I need this, the whole thing.
It's true. And I got to tell you though, Jack, you're lucky you don't live up here because you'd be fighting my 86-year-old dad for the large bin of mixed nuts. And it's just, it happens. So yeah, Tracy's the one, she stocks up on them like a crazy woman. I think we're all there. So you might as well just put a sign on everybody's head that says bird person, or crazy bird person. Don't stand near the nut display. Nuts.com is also good. And yeah, a couple $100 at the end of the year and you're good, Eva. That's a great idea.
Well, then the other thing is, okay, so I don't go for the full mixed nuts. We get the varieties that we don't grow because um, part of what we have is we actually have 25 pecan trees. So at the end of fall, I can go through when they're collected. And what's even better is if you find like friends with kids or grandkids that are closer to the ground to pick them up. And yeah, you tell them you'll give them $1 for a bucket of pecans. Best dollar you will ever spend. Your back and your knees will thank you.
Absolutely. I think that's the way to go, but we don't have those trees here. Julie said last year they weren't selling them in the stores and it was kind of crazy and people were, scrambling to find them. And so I gotta say, Julie, even the ones in the bags, I know they weren't selling a lot of bulk, but in the bags that helped as well. So, look out for that this year. I think things are opening up a little bit and maybe they'll stay that way through the holidays. That would be nice. But seasonally, nuts are definitely fresher. And the funny part of all of that is nuts are not harvested at this time of year. Where are my California people? This is not, or Jack, when do the pecan trees, when are they harvested?
Actually, those our pecan trees do coincide with the middle to end of fall.
Okay, so in Texas, that's the way it goes. But it's interesting because I remember buying from wholesalers and they'd tell me, "Oh, well, these are last year's," and it was like, "Oh, well, okay, well, why don't I wait for next year?" Well, they don't come out until much later. Oh, all right. So you really have to be aware of when you're purchasing things, as like things like that. Nuts freeze really well. You can keep them that way. I would not recommend not freezing them.
Yeah.
That made sense, right? Because you're going to end up with seed moths and worms, and it's not going to be good. And you're also going to end up with the possibility of mold inside the nut shell, and you don't want to do that.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's really easy just to throw them in the freezer. And that was another thing that I was going to bring up. I definitely recommend just freezing it to avoid those insects and other pests that you don't want. Now, I mean, if you want your own butterfly exhibit in your home, you can convince yourself that they're butterflies, and there you go. But yeah, if you just freeze them, it does not take many infected nuts in a batch to ultimately produce it will drive you insane.
Yeah, and it spreads into everything. It'll spread into your pellets. If you feed any kind of seed mix, it'll spread into that. So you just really want to try to stay away from that. So there are just so many ways to use seasonal produce, and again, whatever you term as seasonal. But I think it's the one thing that I want to drive home is that it's enrichment. A lot of it, almost all of it is enrichment. If you can find it year round, that's great. But use it as enrichment. Use it when it comes, when it becomes available, so that it's something novel, something different. And it's just, it's fun to use. It's, we were talking right in the very beginning, we were talking about how much fun you can have with a pumpkin, with your parrot. Carve a pumpkin so your parrot's pumpkin isn't going to look like a jack-o'-lantern. But hey, you're doing an activity together. What do you think, Jack?
Yeah, so for me, one of the things that comes to enrichment is obviously we want our birds to interact with it. We want them engaged. As far as I'm concerned, it should be something that's fun for you as well. You shouldn't hate putting together enrichment items for your bird. It should be fun to put them together. It should be fun to watch your animal interact with those things. So just make sure you're thinking about that. Your bird should be enjoying it, but you should too.
Hmm. Well, and that's the thing, we're all looking for better avian welfare. So in order to get that, we need to provide these kind of things. But it's got to be a two-way street. You enjoy creating it, you give it to your bird, you offer it to your bird, and your bird uses it however they choose to use it, and then you get that response. So what you've done has created that response, and that's the whole point. And that's the beauty of enrichment as far as I'm concerned. So that's a great idea, Julie. Carving a pumpkin, stuff it with berries, mint, green beans, you know, wonderful fun.
Yeah.
So anybody got questions about any kind of how to use seasonal produce? If we got anybody out there that's got anything they'd like to ask?
Or, like we said earlier, if anybody has any requests on any other animal species, any other types of animal care content you would like to see us cover, we would definitely love to hear from you guys in providing that kind of content that you want to see.
Definitely. Dictic is kind of specific, Tracy, but we could probably do that. If you've got one in your backyard, I will be over. I'm just saying. Okay. So chinchilla and dwarf rabbits are totally fun to enrich both species or both types of animals. Um,
Well, okay, so in
are
all fairness, I feel like between the two of us, any animal that you can come up with, like, oh, that could be a fun animal to enrich. That's a really fun animal to train. That, like, I'd be
oh wait,
interested to see if you guys could come up with something we don't like.
yeah, wait. I think Frank just did it. Cockatoos. No. Um, local acorns are dangerous for our birds. Would I be correct in assuming that? I'm not sure about the difference between local and not local. I'm not sure what the question here is, Tracy. What how
Yeah, we
acorns?
so we typically try to avoid acorns.
Yeah.
Depending on the variety of oak, some of them can be lightly toxic. Even if
Hmm.
you find a variety that is not toxic to your bird, they are still incredibly high in fat. The shells of them can be very, very tough, so they could be an ingestion hazard for your animals. We once had a sea lion that had to have an emergency surgery because uh, there was a windstorm and a ton of acorns fell in. He ate them and got impacted on them.
Yeah, and Adrian is right. They are high in tannins, and I know I've always tried to avoid them. It's not something that I'm comfortable with. I do know that, like at the Animal Kingdom at Disney, they have birds that are free flying, and they had one year that it was like Acornageddon is what they called it, because the trained birds would come to where they needed to be, land, and start just plucking and messing with the acorns and not want to go back where they were going to go, because now they were being reinforced by all these acorns in the trees. But yeah, so you got to be nice to the squirrels too, Tracy. So you should leave them. You're right. Leave them for the squirrels in the backyard.
Oh, and then real quick, so look like Linda, she said thank you for the hint about feeding out the pomegranate whole or in chunks because it would have taken a lot of time to pick out all the seeds. If you want to know a trick for getting all the seeds out of a pomegranate, if you want to feed it to a variety of little birds, cut it in half. I take a wooden spoon, hold the pomegranate with the cut side down, and just tap it on the back of the pomegranate. All the seeds will fall out. You will wonder
Mhm.
why you ever went through and picked them out before because it is magical.
Yeah, I still like doing them whole or doing them in big pieces. But yeah, that is an easier way to get them out. Definitely an easier way to get them out. So if we don't have any more questions tonight, We do have a trivia question.
Oh,
And
it's a
the
fun one.
trivia question tonight is, what is the name of the new course that we are creating for new bird owners? We mentioned this at the very beginning. Um,
Um, and we say for
it's
new bird owners, but again, if you would like to refresh yourself on the basics of bird care, this is going to be a great option for that as well.
And Linda had a question: pumpkin seeds roasted or raw? Either way, whenever you cook things, it does change the nutrients, but either way is fine, Linda. So, Nick, do we
Yeah.
have a winner? All right. We've got Julie. Okay. All right. So we've got Julie as the winner. And Julie, I will be sending. Oh, no, no, no. We have a prize this week that I completely forgot about. Um, it's been that kind of week. So last week, we spoke with Michelle Carollo from Royal Avian Specialties, and Michelle volunteered to donate the prize for this week. So it is a toy from Royal Avian Specialties. So Julie, we will get you in touch with Michelle, and we will make that happen. Okay, so I can message you that information and get in touch with Michelle and see what we can do. I wouldn't push her right now. She's still working on the recovery and getting things back to normal down in the Gulf, but we will get you guys in touch. So, Parrot Academy is the name of the course. We are, like I said, super excited about doing it. It's really going to cover, what do I do when I bring this new bird home? How do I handle it? How do I bring it? It's part of bringing a new bird into the home, and what are my expectations, and how do I move forward? And then some training, basic training, a little bit of advanced training. Yes, you got to put the glasses on for the advanced training part. And then, we're going to talk about enrichment. We're going to talk about it's really that from the ground up. How do I go about having a bird in my life? And what are some of the pitfalls? And then how do I create a plan for moving forward that fits my needs? And there is homework. You got those smart
Yeah.
glasses on for the homework, right?
No, I've got smart glasses on because that's the only way I remember the website to tell people. So
Why don't you tell them?
if you would like to find out more about the course, you can go ahead. You can scan that QR code that's on your screen right now, or you can visit theleatherelves.net/macaws. That information for that class will be available. And like Robin was saying, I think the important point of this is this course is designed to help you individually tailor your care program to your bird and your needs. And for both me and Robin, that's not something that we've seen readily available. There are a lot of programs that'll offer you this is the solution. And we've worked with animals long enough to know that every situation is different, every animal is different, and we want to help you guys be successful in your situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. It's about tailoring things to yourself, to your situation. Okay, so we made it through the week. If you guys have a chance over on the MyBird Facebook page, there are 3 live streams that Jack and I did over there. Goal-based enrichment, basic training, and Parrots 101. And then we've got the live stream we did last night on Skewer Gonna Love It on the Macaws Facebook page. That's available there. And I think we made it through the week. Jack, the farm's opening tomorrow, right?
Yes, it's super, super exciting. So we made it through this week. We talked about seasonal produce. I am excited for us to have a more normal week next week.
define more normal. So next week we're going to talk about bird proofing your home for a either a new bird, or maybe you need to take a look at what's going on and do a little bit more bird proofing if you've got birds in your home that might need a little bit more help. So that should be fun. We'll do some problem solving, hopefully. Um, I would
Well,
tell
and
you to have a great week. Hmm?
I was going to say, even if you've had your bird for years, if you get a new home, if you're moving, there might be new considerations that you need to take into account. So even if you're not brand new to your bird, if you're not brand new to birds, there'll definitely be information that should be useful.
All right. So I would